Hello, welcome. In today's class, we'll be looking at the world's oceans. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to identify 5 oceans on the world map. You should also be able to describe the 5 oceans identified. The ocean is known to be the largest body of water on the Earth's surface. There are 5 oceans, namely Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Arctic, and the Antarctic or Southern Ocean. These oceans are separated by vast tracts of land referred to as continents. The image on my left is a world map showing the continents and the oceans. The continents are written with black, while the oceans are written with blue. There are 7 continents in the world, and so we have North America, South America, this is Europe, Asia, Africa, we also have Australia and the Antarctica. And then, as earlier mentioned, there are 5 oceans. So this way we have the Pacific Ocean. This is the Pacific Ocean. This is also a part of the Pacific Ocean. We have the Atlantic Ocean here. Here is the Indian Ocean. Up here is the Arctic Ocean. And down here is the Southern or Antarctic Ocean. It is important to note that the world is not on a flat surface. It is a globe. It is round. And that is why if you look at this map, you would see the Pacific Ocean is here, and then on this other side also is the Pacific Ocean. Now, because the world is a globe, is round, this edge meets with this other edge. And so that is how you have the Pacific Ocean at this edge and also have it at this edge. So when they meet together as a globe, it becomes one ocean, which is the Pacific Ocean. It is also important to note that the middle of this globe, midway, is the equator. So look at the pointer, that line or this line is the equator. Okay. So above the equator, this way is the northern hemisphere. Below the equator is the southern hemisphere. Again, out of the 5 oceans that have been identified, 2 of them cuts across the northern and the southern hemisphere. 2 are situated only in the southern hemisphere, while 1 is found only in the northern hemisphere. So let's look at it together. The Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean cuts across the northern and the southern hemisphere, and that's why you have above the equator in the northern hemisphere, you have the North Pacific Ocean. Below the equator in the southern hemisphere is the South Pacific Ocean. The same thing applies here in the Atlantic Ocean. Above the equator is the North Atlantic Ocean. Below the equator is the South Atlantic Ocean. And then the Indian Ocean and the Southern Ocean are found only in the Southern Hemisphere. So there's not going to be a North Indian Ocean, neither is there going to be a North Southern Ocean. While the Arctic Ocean alone is found only in the northern hemisphere. And so there's not going to be a South Arctic Ocean. It is important to note these points. The Southern Ocean, often known as the Antarctic Ocean, connects the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans in the south, whereas in the north is the Arctic Ocean, as earlier mentioned. Okay, so here is the Southern Ocean. This ocean connects the Pacific Ocean in the south, connects the Atlantic Ocean in the south, and connects the Indian Ocean. Whereas in the north, we have the Arctic Ocean. So, one unique thing about the ocean, the world's oceans, is that they are interconnected. They are not located or situated in isolation. And so that's why the Southern Ocean, that's why it's connected to the Pacific Ocean, connected to the Atlantic Ocean, connected to the Indian, and you see that's how they are linked to the Arctic Ocean. So that's the unique thing about the world's oceans. They are interconnected. They are linked one to the other. They are not situated in isolation, even though their temperatures and currents differ. So in the north, where you have around the North Pole, where you have the Arctic Ocean, and in the South Pole, where you have the Southern Ocean, these oceans are very cold. But around the equator, for instance, where you have the Indian Ocean, the waters of this ocean is warm. So you see there are differences in temperatures, but they are interconnected. The same thing applies with the currents. We're going to be looking at ocean currents in the course of this course, as we, while we proceed with this course. We're going to be looking at ocean currents. The currents around the equator, again, are warm currents, while the currents around the poles are cold currents. So you see the currents also are not the same, they differ, even though the oceans interconnect. We'll check them one after the other. First, the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean is the largest or biggest ocean in the globe. More than half of the world's liquid water is contained there, and it occupies more than 1/3 of the planet's surface. The Pacific separates the North and South America from Asia and Australia. Alright, so this is the Pacific Ocean. It is the largest and the biggest ocean in the entire globe, occupying 1/3 of the entire Earth's surface. This ocean is separated by the continents. So on the right is separated by the North and South America. This is North America. This is South America. On the left, it is separated by Asia up here and Australia. It ranges from icy waters where it connects with Arctic and Southern Oceans to warm waters near equator. I've already mentioned that the waters near the equator is warm, while the waters of the Arctic Oceans and the Southern Oceans at the polar regions are very cold. It also has the deepest place of the entire world's oceans, which is the Mariana Trench. Every ocean has a deepest point, a deepest region or place. As we proceed in this course, we'll be looking at the zones of the oceans, and you'll get to understand that the deepest point in any world's ocean is the Hadal Zone, or what some scientists call the trenches. And so in the Pacific Ocean, that deepest point is about 11,000 meters deep. And that is the deepest in any world's ocean. And that region is referred to as the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean. Nearly half of the world's shipping routes cross the Pacific, carrying all sorts of goods on huge container ships. Because of how deep the Pacific Ocean is, it has become easy and possible for large vessels, fishing vessels, container ships to be able to cross the Pacific Ocean without getting stuck. Next is the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic is the world's second largest ocean, covering about 1/5 of the Earth's surface. The Atlantic separates the North and South America from Europe and Africa. This is the Atlantic Ocean. Above the equator is the North Atlantic Ocean. Below is the South Atlantic Ocean. It is separated by North and South America. This is North America. This is South America. And also separated by the continent Europe up here and Africa. This is Africa. The Atlantic has very cold waters where it joins the Arctic and Southern Oceans, and warm waters near the equator. We've already mentioned this. It's the same thing that happens in the Pacific Ocean. A sea named the Gulf of Mexico discharges the Gulf Stream, a warm water current, into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, I would want you to note that we will be using the word sea to mean almost the same thing as the oceans. So many literature or scientists refer, to the seas and the oceans to mean the same thing, even though the seas are smaller. Geographically, they are smaller than the oceans. And the seas are actually where the oceans meets the land. So where oceans meets land, seas are usually formed there. So we're going to be using the two interchangeably to mean the same thing. The seas are smaller, and there are more seas than we have, than the oceans. The oceans are five major oceans, as has been identified, but we have more seas. So we have the Red Sea, the Black Sea, the Baltic Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and there are many others. But for the purpose of this course, we are going to be using them interchangeably. And so look at this spot between North America and South America, where the ocean meets the land. A sea has been formed here, and that sea is named the Gulf of Mexico. This sea empties into the Atlantic Ocean. Next is the Indian Ocean. The Indian Ocean is the world's third largest and warmest ocean. It lies between Africa and Australia and is south of Asia. Okay, so this is the Indian Ocean. Lies between Africa, this is Africa, and Australia, this is Australia, and up here is Asia. So south of Asia, it also lies in the south of Asia. So that's the location of the Indian Ocean on the world map. The Indian Ocean, just like the Pacific Ocean, has the deepest spot, about 7.125 meters deep, and that spot in the Indian Ocean is referred to as the Java Trench. The warm tropical waters makes an ideal home for sharks like reef shark and the tiger shark. Because the Indian Ocean is also near the equator, so the waters of the Indian Ocean is warm, and because it's warm, it makes an ideal home for sharks. Next is the Southern Ocean. This is the fourth largest ocean in the world, and it is the only ocean that goes all the way around the globe, surrounding the South Pole and the Antarctica. So here we have the Southern Ocean. As you can see, it runs from one end of the globe to the other. And then it surrounds the South Pole. Down here is the South Pole, and then the Antarctica, which is a continent. Winter causes portions of the ocean to freeze, creating massive sheets of ice. The water of the Southern Ocean has lots of nutrients, which encourages plankton growth. So again, the Indian Ocean, because it is located close to the Southern Pole, the Southern Ocean, because it's located close to the Southern Pole, is very cold. And then oftentimes the waters, especially at winter, forms ice sheets, freezes and forms ice sheets, and then the water is also very rich in nutrients, encouraging plankton growth. As we proceed in this course, we'll get to understand why the waters of the waters of the Southern Ocean, while the water is rich in nutrients, and why it encourages plankton growth. Lastly, we have the Arctic Ocean. This is the smallest and the shallowest of the world's oceans. It is located near the North Pole, along the northern coast of North America, Asia, and Europe. So up here is the Arctic Ocean. Of course, it's near the Northern Pole, so it's a very cold ocean. The waters are very cold. And then it is along the northern coast of North America, Europe, and Asia. The vast majority of the water freezes over between December and May, just like the Southern Ocean. The waters of the Arctic Ocean also, would freeze, at very cold seasons. And it's also known to be a region where animals like polar bears and whales, go to feed. Polar bears live, most of their life in the Arctic Ocean, where they source for food, and then the whales during summer also migrates to the Arctic Ocean during summer to feed. There are seasons when the temperature will increase. There will be increased temperature, making the water warmer than what it is originally. And at this period, the polar ice begins to melt, and then the ice caps get smaller. This is where we stop today. Hope to see you in our next class. Thank you.